Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the place where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and we're back for 2025. It's our first show of the year, and I cannot imagine better guests to start it off than Brandon and Martha Thompson. These are the owners of the Thompson Funeral Homes, multiple funeral homes located here in Ponchatoula, in Hammond, in Denham Springs, and who knows, they may tell me they have one in Tucson that I don't know about. But they're two of my favorite people. I kind of see them around. Their grandkids and my kids are around the same age. They live in the neighborhood. They go to the same schools. They even played t-ball together one year on the same team. But it's just a great local family that I've known back since my high school days. So with no further ado, I bring to you our guests of honor, Brandon and Martha Thompson. Martha, Brandon, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, we're great.
We're doing good. Thanks for having us.
Well, I greatly appreciate the two of you being with us here today. Why don't we kick things off with y'all just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Brandon Thompson, born and raised in Pumpkin Center. Attended Ponchatoula schools and Martha, you want to?
Yeah, I'm Martha Thompson. I was born and raised, well, actually, I lived, if you remember where the Trey Inn was in Hammond, I grew up in that little subdivision right behind Trey Inn. I remember it being built when my dad had the funeral home right there across the street.
Right, so you could walk across what's now a very busy street, but back then it was probably more safe to walk across. Yeah, absolutely. Knew that campus there well. So what was that like? We're going to get into your funeral home, obviously, from your not so small start, but your start of, as I understand it, one in Hammond to the now fleet of operations you have across our region. But Martha, for you, what was it like growing up in a funeral home family? The McNeely families and funerals go way back, multiple locations, multiple generations. Is that something you always knew you wanted to do, or is that something you and Brandon, found later? What was that like as a child?
Well, I didn't know any different. So some of our favorite days was when my dad would bring a big box home and we could play funerals in the backyard, and we just didn't know any different. My great grandmother had actually started the business, and then it was passed down to my grandfather and then my father, and so I'm fourth generation. The main thing that I knew that I wanted to be all my life was a wife and a mother. And so when Brandon and I started dating in high school, he started working for my dad. He just really found that he had a passion for it. And so later on, when we had the opportunity to open our own, I was there to help him. And here we are over 19 years later, still helping.
So Brandon, it sounds like you took to it right away. The two of you are high school sweethearts.
Yes.
Would you mind telling us about your introduction to the business and when it kind of snapped that you knew that this was your passion and your career?
Yeah. So I grew up, like I said, Pumpkin Center. My dad was a building contractor here in our parish, and so that's kind of the route. Working, going to school, summertime, worked on a construction site, so that's kind of the route that I thought that I would always take. My grandfather did that as well. And so I guess as I got older, going through school, going to high school, I met Martha. I guess we were in 10th grade. And so when we started dating, I would go over to her house and so forth, and her dad, he would constantly, hey, you want to come? I need something done at the funeral home, or, you mind coming ride with me, or, try to help me do this or that. And so it seemed like he just wanted me to, I guess, luring me into exposing me to the funeral business. And so finally I gave in because I was scared to death. You got to realize I was a 10th grader. I wanted nothing to do with a funeral home or anything like that. And so I finally gave in. And I think my first job at the funeral home was parking cars or, helping folks get in and out and so forth. And so I guess from that time, I just took a liking to the funeral business and to, just serving people and caring for folks. And I guess it just stuck with me. And then after, I guess, as we went on dating and so forth, eventually got married. We just continually progressed. And that seemed to be the route.
Right. Well, I want to go back to something you said, Martha, in that you kind of always wanted to be a mother. And, for folks that have watched the show any length of time, they know that your mom was one of my favorite guests of all time. I had, just a joyous time interviewing her. She's one of the sweetest people in town. And I walk by her house every morning, and she lives half a block maybe from my parents. And she's just a fixture here in this town. So clearly you had what I would call the ultimate role model for that calling. But, go deeper into what you told us in that kind of, when did you know that? How did you know that? And what did it mean to you? And was it, as I suspect, perhaps an offshoot of knowing you had such a great mom, or was it something even deeper that you realized before you realized how great she was? But where did that come from for you in your life?
Well, you're right. I definitely have a wonderful mom. When it comes to moms, I really hit the jackpot. My sisters and me, we've been blessed with a wonderful mother, and so happy to still have her with us. And
by the way, it goes the other way too. You've raised a wonderful mom in your daughter Lauren, who's right that way, about two houses over. But please continue. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have such an admiration for your mom. I wanted you to talk about this angle.
Yeah, yes. She's a wonderful mother and a wonderful grandmother, and now a wonderful great grandmother. She's a tremendous help to us each and every day. I don't know what we would do without her. But I don't know what it was. Just as a child, different kids are into different toys. But for me, it was always the baby dolls. And then it was always, when I got old enough, in church to volunteer in the church nursery, or however I could get my hands on babies. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I always knew I wanted to do, was be a mother. And I didn't think that far into the future, but now as a grandmother, being a mother and a grandmother is everything to me.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of you got together clearly at a young age. Would you mind kind of sharing that love story with us, and how, because it's so refreshing to see in 2025 how, a couple of young Christians can come together, stay together, build a beautiful family, build a business to support it all. But kind of, how does that evolve? How do you know kind of when young love is not just puppy love and, a fun date to the prom, but rather a partner for life and, a future spouse?
I just think that we were very, very blessed and lucky that we found each other when we did. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know what it was, but we certainly both knew. I know I did.
I know at the time, so my best friend, let's see, how did that work?
We met through our best friend.
Yeah, yes. Her best friend and my best friend introduced us together. And we went on a couple of double dates with them.
And we just clicked. And we're very like-minded in many ways, but we're also different in many ways. And I feel like we really complement each other.
Well, we balance out.
Yeah, we do.
Pretty well.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. It sounds really not unlike, an old cat like me meeting my wife in my 30s in the Strawberry Festival through mutual friends. It's just, when it fits, it fits. And when you know, and you'll know it when you see it, I'm hearing.
It is. Yeah, that's right.
It's a lightning strike moment, right? It's kind of more with what God's plan is than necessarily your expectations for the day.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little more family too. I mean, when you look back at your childhood, I'm blessed to know siblings of yours on both sides. Brandon, your brother Lance, and I were classmates, and he was always such a great guy. And in more recent years, I may see him around the soccer fields or something. kids that are overlapping with games. And of course, Martha, you have these beautiful sisters. One, like my wife's a strawberry queen, and I would see her through all that. The other is, just the most talented hair and makeup artist ever, and has helped Brandy through so much. So what was it kind of like growing up in your households with the siblings you had, and from what you learned from your parents to kind of what you did with your siblings? What was childhood like in Pumpkin Center and in Hammond for the two of you?
So I'll tell you, I had a great childhood. Growing up in Pumpkin Center back then, such a small community, and it seemed like every family there, everybody knew one another. And
Right.
So our house our property butts up to the Natalbany River. And so just growing up in Pumpkin Center, literally, Parker, when we would get up in the morning and leave out, my mom, we wouldn't come back home till it got dark. And so we played all day, fished and did things back on the river. Pumpkin Center was such a quaint country community. We rode bikes all over that whole entire place, and it was just such a really, really good childhood. I will say, I'm so blessed to have such a great foundation and a childhood, just growing up, that's a true blessing.
Absolutely. And Martha, what about for you? It was a little busier, but like we say, not the intersection we think of today at University and 51, but what was life for you across the street from the funeral home at the Trayan properties, as we may call it?
It was wonderful. And looking back, it was just such a pure and wonderful childhood to grow up right there. My whole world existed in about a 2-mile radius because my dad worked there across the street and would come and go throughout the day. My mom taught at Natalbany Baptist, and that's where we went to school. That's where we went to church. So our whole world revolved around that small little area, except for on Sunday afternoons when we'd come visit our grandparents in Ponchatoula. And, with 3 girls in the house, it was interesting, especially when there were 3 teenagers in the house. There was a lot of drama and maybe arguing and fussing and fighting, but we're all very close. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Still to this day.
Well, that lets me know, between that and the daughters you've raised, y'all are ready for all of the teenage years that are coming with those grandbabies. So when the pretty little Godin girls who are Thompson granddaughters here in my neighborhood get to that age, their mama hopefully will be ready from coming from y'all and learning about that, Martha. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about the next chapter in life. I mean, y'all meet. You talked about kind of your origin story, Brandon, and finding this industry. But it sounds to me like when Brandon G. Thompson Funeral Home started, Martha Thompson's busy as a mama handling the family. Brandon is the proprietor, getting that business off the ground going. Martha, you are, of course, there to help and have an active role and all this family knowledge of it or whatnot. And to the extent I'm wrong about that, correct me. But if you don't mind, tell me how y'all go from high school love and budding career, just getting a notice, the entrepreneurial venture of let's do our own thing. Let's start our own funeral home. Let's build this thing that we all know today to be kind of an empire.
Yeah. So I guess after high school, I did get my contractor's license and, became a building contractor and still, helped my dad do some of that stuff. I went on to Southeastern, attended Southeastern in business, and then I guess I sat out for a while and went back into, building and real estate and that type stuff for a while. And then, with within the back of my mind, I just felt that, I just felt that desire and just pulling me back to the funeral business, just thinking about it. And so I think Martha went on to college, and we decided we were going to build our first place there in Hammond, and
well, Brandon is a lifelong entrepreneur. I guess, how old were you when you started with your grandpa selling? Either it would be eggs or refurbished tools or fertilizer.
You're like my little boys with their lemonade stand, man. They always want to hustle some bucks through the lemonade stand.
Yeah. Put himself through college with some small businesses that he started. So he has always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And that was a lot of it. And then we just missed it. My dad was killed in '95, and the business had been sold, and so to his sister. And so we just really missed it. Yeah. And we wanted to do it. And so it took many years to get everything in place to be able to do that. But we finally did. We opened up our Hammond location in 2006. With our third child being 6 weeks old. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And then we added another one 2 years later.
I bet. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because while I can't sit here and say I can imagine what that was like exactly, the business I built is very different than the business you built. It requires far less capital and real estate and all the things that are essential to a funeral home. But what I can relate to about your story is kind of when you're starting a small business, and we all come from different, backgrounds and money and whatnot. But the reality is, usually you're punching up to the best you can in your weight class, right? And so while you may have something new, it's probably much more thinly capitalized than you'd like. It's a riskier venture than you like. And, when you talk about it happening at the same time as kids, it can be terrifying. So although I'm older, for example, when I, built, or didn't build, but remodeled my office and purchased my office and expanded my little office in Ponchatoula, it coincided with the birth of my first child, Luke. And it's kind of like, I'll never forget going to lunch with Jeff Leschere one day as my house is being renovated into a law office, and I'm running out of money. And Jeff gives me the bad news that he sold one of his Hammond buildings to Gordon McKernan. And I just felt like a little burger shop, and being told that McDonald's was moving in next door, which I can relate to from my high school job, and being a Hi-Ho, alum of 4 years, along with my two brothers. What am I right in thinking that that's just a pressure cooker, no matter whether you come from the McNeely family and have all that experience, or whether, you've had multiple successful smaller businesses, in your case, Brandon? I mean, was the pressure real and intense in that moment? And if so, or if not, what was that like for y'all?
Yeah, so very real. The funeral business is a very, very difficult business to get into, and to be successful in it. It takes a lot of capital to start, and
expertise, right? Because you're not flipping burgers. I mean, the barrier to entry, as you suggest, is high.
Correct. And so, and we're, humans are creatures of habit, and we're very traditional. And so it's a very, very difficult business to get started. But I think Martha and I both agree and knew back then, if we were going to do it, we had to do it first class, and it had to be done, we had to do it right. And we had to go into it. You couldn't halfway do anything. It had to be, high level. And so we did. Very risky. I guess as much as you try to prepare and do, you truly don't know what you don't know. Is that
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I guess maybe we're fortunate. We didn't really realize just how risky it was 19 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I appreciate your candor in sharing that story because we often speak to, folks on this show. And one of the things I like to do is help share the journey of successful people because it's easy to see once you're on that mountaintop. Oh,
Yes.
those guys have that. And probably fall victim to a lazy myth like, oh, yeah, well, I think Martha's dad was Harry McNeely. That's, and it's not like y'all got handed this thing on a silver platter. You did your own thing, independent. And sure, if Mr. Harry doesn't bring you under his wing, Brandon, and you don't get that point of view, maybe it doesn't happen. And Martha, your expertise and all, but that is but a small part of a big, journey. And I appreciate y'all sharing that story with us. One of the things I love about your business, your funeral home, and something I try to emulate with my business, my law firm, is your support of community. And what comes to mind for me particularly is this post I saw from you on Facebook, which I'm going to try to bring up here. I'm not the best at tech, so forgive me if this either doesn't work or works poorly. I hope you guys can see it from January 8th. But you talk about the importance of making your community a better place. Since you started in 06, I got back to town 2 years out of law school in 04 and opened a little office, with a handshake deal from Andy Edwards. I rented a small office from him at a very discounted price. Thank God he was such a good family friend and mentor. But it's been important to me, like you, to sponsor the little league teams, to, give as much as you can. And so, at a quick glance, this looked to be 30 or 40 businesses, and this is not all the ones you supported since 06. This is just in the last year.
Yeah.
So I wanted to first and foremost say thank you for that. But you might notice I've kind of highlighted the sixth or I think seventh one on there, which is baseball and sophomore. So I don't know if you can see it, but I just brought in head coach Jeremy Harper of the state title game, runner up to the state champion softball team that we're so proud of. Jeremy's a regular on the show. He's one of the few people that's been on here multiple times. So here in 2025, we're going to try something new we've never done before. We're going to kind of do our first commercial. And I thought this was a fitting match. And when I say commercial, I wish I had McDonald's, speaking to them, would pipe in and pay me to be on the show. But Jeremy's got something really cool coming up. And I knew that the two of you are supporters of his softball team as well as the baseball team. So I promised him a couple minutes to talk about the upcoming gala that he's sponsoring or bringing forth for his team. So, Coach Harper, with no further ado, would you mind for just a few minutes interrupting our interview and telling us about this great thing that you've got coming up?
Man, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So first of all, the Thompsons in this community, they're one of those folks who have not only grew up here and put roots here, but also have made sure that the community is supported time and time again. Folks, they're one of those businesses that they never say no because they know how important community is to this community. How important it is to prepare this next generation of kids to pour back into Ponchatoula, Hammond, Laranger, Tickfaw, Kentwood. Tangipahoa Parish deserves us to stay here, spend our money here, support our kids here. And so the Green Wave, Lady Wave softball team and our Green Wave baseball team, our booster clubs decided to get together and do something for Ponchatoula that has never been done. We're calling it the Green and White Gala. It is in support of our young ladies who play softball for us and our young men who play baseball for us. And we're just wanting the community. We're asking for money like all programs do, but we're trying to give you something as well. The ability to show these young people that you really support them. The date is Saturday, February 1st. It's coming up very soon. We've reserved a beautiful venue in downtown Ponchatoula, Chesterton Square. There's going to be food. There's going to be auctions, live auctions and silent auctions. One of our really cool local bands, Tyler Kingston and the Right Pieces, are going to be there playing live music from 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. And we've got options where you can buy an entire table and you can put 12 people there. And not only will you get a whole table, but you'll also get hors d'oeuvres included with your ticket. Everybody does. There's a charcuterie board that table gets, and that table also gets a private server just for you, for your table. So that's a really cool option. There's also a home run ticket where you're guaranteed a seat. There's self-serve hors d'oeuvres, and then there's also even a base hit ticket where if you just want to wander, just kind of meander around and dance, and you don't need a table, you just want to be there to support these young people, that option is there too. There's a website, there's a Facebook page. You can look for Green and White Gala on the Facebook page. There is the email address, phsgreenandwhitegala@gmail.com. I know Parker provided us a basket for us to auction off. Lots of cool things. We even have front row seating at Ponchatoula High School graduation that our administration has generously given us to be able to have auction that off. I can see that people already want to do that. We're auctioning off a front row parking spot for our students that you can buy for your kids if they go to Ponchatoula. We're auctioning off front row seat at awards day. Our community has really come together to do this for us. We appreciate it because the biggest thing is there's so many different ways that people can support, and not just. I mean, I know I'm partial. I'm the softball coach here, and Coach Tribble as the baseball coach. We're partial, and we know that people are constantly coming to these businesses and asking for things. But until we say we want to make sure that not just the culture of Ponchatoula is good for our future generations, but that Ponchatoula High School culture is good for future generations. I'm not from here. I've told you numerous times, Parker. I'm an adopted.
We let a LaRanja boy in the back door, everybody, but only because he married Will. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah, he married.
I grew up in LaRanja, and I moved to Ponchatoula High School because of the culture of Ponchatoula High School. And until you go to this high school, as we do every day, and you sit in those hallways and you see these kids trying to change things for the better here, a lot of folks like to say, well, Ponchatoula this, Ponchatoula that. I encourage anybody, just buy a ticket, come to this thing, and show these kids how important they are to you, because that's the only way. The school board has limited funds. We know that. The community has limited funds. I know that too. But Ponchatoula softball and Ponchatoula baseball will be better when our alumni, all these softball alumni, all these baseball alumni. I had the opportunity to be not only a softball coach, but I was a baseball coach too. So I know how important both of these programs are to this community. And people like the Thompsons support again and again and again. And we need more businesses just like that to go. We want to make Ponchatoula this shining light in the community that everybody goes, oh, no, I'm sending my kids to Ponchatoula High School.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like an outstanding event. I'm hopeful my producers are able to put a link in our comments here so that folks can find that easier. But as you mentioned, there's a Facebook page. One more time, when you hit us with that email address, or rather the webpage, whatever it was. And
it's phsgreenandwhitegala@gmail.com.
Okay, great. Well, Coach, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You're a fan favorite. Please give my best to your beautiful bride, Jennifer, my classmate of Lance Thompson, Brandon's brother. PHS crew's got to stick together, and we appreciate you doing that for us. So,
Brandon and Martha, thank you for letting me take some of your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
thank
Chairman.
you for doing that. So he makes a good point about shopping local. And, I know when I show up at the PAR gym to coach or watch my kids, your girls will be on the girls' court near there. And, you're sponsoring their team, and it's cute to see them play for the family business. But it's not like y'all are just doing it because it's their team. You're doing it all the time. And, that's the thing about shopping local is when you shop local, you have a shot at this reinvestment or keep dollars in the community. My industry, there are a lot of what I call fake local, lawyers, where some big skyscraper lawyer out of Baton Rouge or New Orleans or wherever will open up a shop in Hammond, call some people local. Now, they may be local in that they lived somewhere else last week and they shipped them in. Maybe they've been around a while. But in either instance, no matter how local that lawyer, secretary, whoever's there is, the profits and money all go back to the headquarters. And you don't see them at par. And I think that's true whether you're talking funeral homes or grocery stores or law firms or whatever. But also know the flip side of the coin is it's easier said than done. I mean, you're a Target, a big, beautiful facility on Highway 51 across from Walmart. Makes it convenient for everybody who's got a car to come your way. And I'm sure, like me, you want to say yes to everybody, but you've got a budget and you can't give your employees raises and do all the good things you want to do. And it's tough. And seeing Coach Harper reminds me, last year we got the bright idea. We said, love PHS. I want to support PHS. So we came up with a budget, and I don't remember exactly what it was, $3,000 maybe. And it was like, all right, we're going to give each of these teams that make the cut $300. And it was like, all right, it gets down to the nitty gritty. And it's like, well, we can't do baseball or not softball. So Coach Harper makes the hook. But I remember, the couple of teams that were on the bubble that didn't make it were the bowling team, which didn't exist when I was there, and the esports team, which I was like, is that sports? I don't know. My kids love video games. But sure enough, by the end of the year, some of my clients were like, my kid's on the bowling team. Can you help me? So sometimes you end up stretching beyond what you even budget. Is that been y'all's experience? And I just want to say thank you, because it's tough. You guys are one family of ownership. You have a lot of obligations, a lot of mouths to feed. And I look at this list of yours, which is tremendous, and it's not just Ponchatoula. It's all these surrounding communities, Hammond and beyond. So I want to say thank you. Let me turn back to a new question. I'll get off my soapbox about, shop local. But, going back to the business of it, do you remember a point when you kind of felt like we're going to make it? Like this is, are you there yet? It would seem like, yeah. And maybe it's something that just happened so gradually you didn't notice. But when did you go from the terror of young people doing this crazy thing of starting your own funeral home to, we got this, let's look at the next. We're going to go from survive to thrive,
Yeah.
Brandon, Martha, when did y'all know that?
Have we gotten to that point yet? We've been very blessed since we opened. The community has really, really supported us and trusted us, and it just means so much to us. It really, truly does. But after the first couple of years, we were still thinking, well, maybe the first year was a fluke, the second year, and then I guess 5 years in, you're feeling pretty successful, but then you'll have slow times, and then you'll see people that you would have thought would have used your funeral home who didn't, and it hurts, because when it's
Right.
your business, it's like your child, somebody not choosing your child or leaving your child out or whatever. So still, when we have those slow times, you just kind of, I guess, kind of get paranoid that maybe the first, 19 years were a fluke, but even though that's not logical. And I hope that we never really feel like we could just take it for granted.
That's right.
We don't ever want to feel like that.
I always run the race like I'm in last place.
Right.
And
Well, I love that you admit to the kind of personal side of it hurts, because I know I've seen that sometimes. I will learn from time to time that so-and-so had a case and it's exactly what I do, and they choose somebody else, and it's like,
yeah,
dang, I played Little League baseball with that guy,
Yeah.
and choosing my competitor, and we're all humans, no matter how successful we are or what we do.
yes.
So I appreciate you sharing that candidly. What about the decision to expand? Because you're thriving in this one location, but Brandon, you mentioned earlier, it takes a lot of capital. When did you decide to come into Ponchatoula, go to Denham Springs, move into a broader pattern rather than just hunker down and build on what you had in Hammond?
Yeah, it's, Ponchatoula continues to grow. And I guess back then, I can't remember exactly the year we were able to come over to Ponchatoula, but I don't know if you remember, Parker, but there was another funeral home in town, Geisler.
Yes.
Funeral home. I don't know if you remember, but
as I recall, we were located in Hammond and Ponchatoula. Is that right, Brandon?
They did. They had a location in Hammond, one in Ponchatoula, and one out in Albany as well. And so we were fortunate to buy those folks, and of course the Ponchatoula facility being the newest facility that he had. was state of the art, and it really fit into the footprint of our existing Hammond building, and kind of, I'll give credit to Martha. She does all of the decorating and all that stuff, but it was very similar, and it just, with the population growth in Ponchatoula, I guess with Katrina and so forth, it just opened us up to say, we can expand our area, we can, use share our resources from Hammond and Ponchatoula, and so it just kind of made sense at the time.
Yeah. And I would imagine each of you had a comfort with the market in that, Martha, you mentioned coming here every Sunday to see grandparents growing up, having family from here. Brandon, you're kind of in that no man's land in Pumpkin Center where you have Ponchatoula High with us, probably a Springfield phone number, a Hammond address, but it's on the periphery of where you are.
Yeah.
And so it's so neat to have somebody, from here doing that, because the funeral business is personal, right? I mean, it's like what I do. People call it personal injury because the injury is personal. Whatever lawyer you hire is going to have access to every medical record, just all the sticky parts of your life that you don't share with everyone.
Yeah.
And I would imagine the funeral business is, the people are raw. My wife lost her grandfather. We did the services, through you guys in Hammond, without a hitch. It was wonderful, so tastefully done. But it is so raw and personal because even though he was in his 90s, you just never know when your day's coming, and it's hard. We've all seen it. People you expect, people you don't. It's hard either way.
Yeah.
People who live good lives and people with more challenges and bad decisions, it's hard either way. How do y'all handle that kind of human side of helping people go through what is often the most difficult part of their life?
Yeah.
It is really, really hard. That's probably what is the hardest thing for me. And you're so right. I mean, and there are times where I'm a very sensitive person. So there are times that I have literally had to just close my office door. You just have to close that door, and just how I handle it is I just, for example, if we will have a child in our care, I'll just try to use that as an opportunity to remind myself how blessed I am and what really matters in life and what doesn't matter, and just value and love my children.
Yeah.
And take advantage of every opportunity I have to be with them.
And I guess I get through it because I know that I have to be strong. I know that I have to be strong for them and the family, and just to help guide them, with what time they're going to spend with us.
Sure.
Whether, if it's a few days or a week or whatever that case may be, we have such a great team. We're so blessed to have such a great team. And, Martha and I, we can't do it by ourselves, but we surround ourselves with good people, a good team that they truly have a heart to serve. And they, we're all on the same page. We just really want to help this family through the next steps.
Right. Well, you mentioned a great team, which I've certainly seen in action and agree with, and good people, and that heart to serve is a prerequisite. And you could not have nailed it better with your daughter, Lauren, who works with you now.
Yes.
What's that like? Because you guys have multiple beautiful children, and they're all dynamic and brilliant in their own way. And some, well, I guess I was about to say some aren't old enough to serve yet, but heck, Brandon, given the age you started at, I guess they are. But, how do you kind of know when, hey, one of my kids is, a natural here and ready for this? How did you know with Lauren that it was going to work and be such a good fit?
Yeah, Lauren. So Lauren, I'll kind of explain kind of our roles, but I oversee the day-to-day operations of the funeral homes, the monument company, casket company, and all those things. And then Martha, she kind of oversees the grief support, community outreach, all those things. Lauren, she went to college as well, and when she got out of college, as she did, she started at the funeral home. Actually
She worked
at the funeral home the whole time. Yeah. Through high school, through college, but she kind of focuses more on the back office stuff. I say the more of the accounting part and that type stuff, and she does a very good job. Very astute with those things, and so I'm blessed to have her, on the team as well. And it's really important to us, and I don't know if folks really know this or not, but we're family owned, but every day at that funeral home, one of us Thompsons, whether it's me, Martha, Lauren, somebody is there. And I pride ourselves on that because we're very involved, and we want to know, we keep our pulse on the business, and we want to know what's going on day in and day out.
Yeah, well, there's no better quality control than having the boss in the building. And so have multiple versions of the boss there, whether your roles differ or not. You guys are the owners, and your daughter's your daughter, and it's a family outfit. And yeah, that's you're not sitting back at the beach house, collecting profit checks while the business is kind of on autopilot. You're still running it yourself. I admire that. I want to share a quote from my good buddy, like Coach Harper, regular on the show. He and other family members of his have been guests, and one of my best friends, Marshall Graves. Marshall says he passes Ponchatoula location of your funeral home every day on his bus. Bus number, I think P30, if I got that right, Marshall. I know my kids know it to a T. I hope I do. But he says it's awesome to hear about the support that you give our community and those surrounding. And so he's throwing much love your way. Marshall, thank you for tuning in, man. What do they say? It takes one to know one. Few people do more for the community than you. Your community outreach program is just phenomenal. Whether you're preaching or balling or leading and learning, whatever, you're great for the community. And so you and the Thompsons, fit right in. So, what would people be surprised to learn about you, Brandon and Martha, or your business? I mean, what are the things that people may not get that you feel comfortable sharing with us, about what life's like in the funeral home business in your world?
Well, it's very stressful. It's very, very unpredictable. So, just you have to be very flexible and change, the logistics and scheduling. And when you look at, as much volume as we do, it can be challenging at times. But just know this, that we're grateful for every family that calls us. You're not a number to us. You're truly a family. We're a family that we serve and care for the folks that trust us and call on us. We don't take that lightly. We take that very, very seriously, and we're just truly grateful for that. I don't know, Martha, if you want to speak.
Well, in our business, a funeral director wears many, many hats, and I think people don't really realize. You may have an idea of what it is, maybe morbid, maybe sad all the time, and that's not always the case. And as far as people looking to go into the business, I feel like there's kind of something for everybody, whether it be the marketing side of it. If you I work in our care center, the office side of it, grief support, aftercare programs. There really is something for everybody. Mm-hmm. Directing funerals. There are just so many things that a funeral director does that I guess maybe in a regular occupation where you're sitting at a desk doing the same thing every day. That is not the case. They're inside, they're outside, they're meeting with families, they're going to churches, they're going to cemeteries, just many, many different tasks.
And not only that, I know we talk about the funeral home and the things that happen there, but we also have all the folks that work on the outside of the business that a lot of times the public, they don't even see. And so I mentioned.
Do you mean like the monument and casket company and grave diggers and stuff, or what do you mean by outside? Okay.
I mean, those people, because when a family goes to the cemetery, they see the grave dug, the tin up, they see the flowers, all there nice and neat.
Yeah,
But
it didn't just magically happen, and it's unlike any hole I've ever seen dug in my life, because it's freshly dug, but it's also very neat and pristine around there, right?
Right.
It really takes a lot of dedication and attention to detail, I would imagine.
Yep. So you have all the folks on the outside, all the folks that help us in maintenance and keeping up with our facilities and, all those things. And then you have the folks that, the funeral business is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have the folks that answer telephones and go on transfers at nighttime and do all those things that, a lot of times people don't see. So it's a big organization, a great, it's a team effort. We have a great team. And so, it is, I call it's a work in progress,
As is any good business that you're running. I'm fresh off a 2-day leadership retreat with my team at Strawberry Manor, and whatever that ends up being, 16 hours of planning. You just learn that you have to constantly be changing and tweaking and improving.
Absolutely.
If you're not growing, you're falling behind. I want to share a quote here that I bet means a lot to you. Your beautiful daughter, my neighbor, Lauren Thompson Godan, who works here with you, as we've discussed, she says that y'all make her proud. And, she and her husband, DJ, are just two of the nicest people, great neighbors. They're beautiful little girls. I think I gave my 200th bike to Adeline.
You did.
Not
Yes.
like some lucky giveaway. Our bike program is earned. Every bike is earned by those kids doing great things. And, she's out there, whether it's helping mama make lunches for the family as a kid, or taking care of baby Henry, or whatever. But it's kind of cool. It's got to be cool to see multiple generations of your family kind of just kicking butt like that. And what's it mean to you when you hear that from Lauren?
Oh, well, we're very proud of her. Lauren is the type of child, she never required any kind of discipline or correction. She was hard enough on herself. She made it look really easy. We thought we were the reason for that. Obviously we were, because we went on to have 3 more children, and we found out that we weren't the perfect parents, but they are great kids too. I would like to just take a minute just to talk a little bit about our kids. So we have Lauren and
tell us
DJ.
about all of them.
Lauren and DJ, and DJ has been in our life. I think he was 17 when Lauren and him started dating. So they dated about 5 years and then got married.
Well, that's a blessing. He's the hardest working man in our subdivision. He never stops.
He never stops.
He's a great son-in-law.
And so they have our 3 grandchildren, Adeline, Annie,
And am I correct? I'm sorry to interrupt, Martha, but did DJ work for y'all at the funeral home for a while?
He did through high school and through college. He did.
I thought so, because I remember Brandon, your brother Lance, telling me just what a stud worker he was, and how y'all knew from that point in time that he was, kind of the right kind of guy. But please proceed. I just want to make sure I had that right.
Yeah, he sure did. He's a hard worker. He works for Shell now, so he's no longer with us, and we sure hated to lose him, but Shell's a company.
Nobody can compete with that kind of pay raise.
Right.
I feel bad about losing him to that job.
And then our second daughter, Madison, she's a registered nurse at the NICU at Women's Hospital, and she's been married a little over a year to our son-in-law, Tyler Joyner.
Yeah.
And he works for Cretan Homes. They're a great couple.
Is
they
that
don't have any
Jason
children
Joyner's
yet, but they have a Doberman that's their baby, Alice. And,
is Tyler Jason Joyner's son?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Another classmate of mine. Great guy. Okay. Please continue. Sorry to keep interrupting you.
That's okay.
And then our third daughter we call her Tori. Her name is Emily Victoria. She's named after her aunt and her grandmother, great grandmother. And so Tori graduated from St. Thomas last year, and she's a freshman at Southeastern, and she wants to go into the nursing program. And so she's our third daughter. And then our son, our baby, he's 16. That's Brandon Jr. After 3 girls, it was a given that he was going to be Junior.
Finally got us a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah, and he had to be junior. You know
Oh,
that.
of course. Got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. It's a beautiful family. I love seeing you guys out and about, whether it be here in the neighborhood or at an event for the kids or grandkids or even on Facebook or whatever. You guys have truly put in the work, and God blessed you with this beautiful family, and you deserve it. When you look back over the years we've discussed, I know we've kind of hit all your life, but particularly over the professional years here. As I alluded to earlier in the show, one of the things I like to do is leave some breadcrumbs for people that want to be Brandon and Martha Thompson of their generation, maybe, whether inside the funeral home business or outside. When you look back over these decades, what kind of lessons learned come to mind? Whether you look at it in the form of what would I tell young Brandon and Martha Thompson if I could go back in time, to when they were teenagers, or what would I tell some teenage, couple today that's like, hey, this is where we want to be. How do we get there? What springs to mind when you think about that kind of advice?
First and foremost, give God the glory, trust in Him.
Amen.
First and foremost. I know folks, they see successful business, a great family, but please give God the glory and trust in Him, and He will seek it through. But you want to, I guess if I had to give some youngsters some advice, it's certainly not going to be easy. I always said if it was easy, everybody would do it. But I would don't take risks. Risk usually, there's rewards with risk, but you want to be mindful and think through them and kind of keep your risk as minimal as possible. But I wouldn't be afraid to take risks. I think people do it all the time, and they, they're successful for it. You got anything you want to add?
I have found that if you do the right things for the right reasons, the success will follow. Yeah. But it's not just going to happen. You have to be willing to sacrifice early on to be able to reap the benefits in the future. You can't have it all at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. I love that you share that, because Brandon, you're right. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you don't take some risk, your rewards will be minimized.
Right.
And Martha, you're so right. You have to delay gratification, because if you don't invest early, and go without perhaps the sports car you want or whatever. For Brandy and me, that meant living in a house with a toaster oven for a decade while we kind of invested in our business instead of building
no doubt
that our friends had at that age. And eventually the big house will come, if you do that, but it takes patience. And that's excellent advice. I'd like to, before I give you an opportunity to close out with anything y'all want to talk about, share a couple of comments from our friend Robin Abrams. Robin's another person who was one of my favorite interviews ever, because she's such a delightful person. It says, Martha, that both of you are making your dad proud.
Oh,
I thought that's a sweet thing to say.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin.
She also says that you and your business treat families like your own, and her mom's services were there. Robin and I talked, I know how tough that was on her, and continues to be on her, to lose someone that she loves so much, and it was so great to her and so many others. And she's blessed to have her husband there through that. Charles was a great caretaker. But she thanks the two of you for your dedications to families. And that is such a great example to see someone like Robin and her family go through such a profound loss. It's just so necessary to have folks like you two to help through that. So, as we bring to a close, and as I thank you for your patience with this interview going longer than I expected or probably told you it would, is there anything else on your mind, on your heart, anything else you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just, I just want, a huge mentor to me was Martha's dad. He was just, I was 10th grade when I met him, and we had a good, just a special bond. And he taught me so much in the short period of time that I knew him. And yeah, just wanted to mention.
Yeah, Mr. Harry McNeely was a local legend. I mean, my dad
Yeah.
talked fondly of him, all the time. He was just, I'm so sorry you lost him so early, Martha, in such tragic circumstances. What a blessing it must have been to have him as a daddy, and for you, Brandon, as a mentor and father-in-law. And thank you for mentioning him.
Yeah.
Martha, is there anything you want to add to that?
I just wanted to, yeah, that's so true. Thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. Just a couple of events that we had coming up that I thought maybe some people in our community would be interested in. We have our support group starting later at the end of the month, and that's going to be at our Denham Springs location. But on February 12th at noon, we're having a Widows Valentine's Luncheon. Any ladies who have lost their husband or significant other are welcome to attend that. We would love to have you. It's not going to be a sad thing. It's going to be a fun time full of good food and fellowship and friends and games and prizes. So anyone that is interested in that, I will have more information about that on our Facebook page, or they can call our funeral home.
I love that idea. You can't see it from the camera here, but I'm sitting at a little cypress desk that was made ages ago by a local craftsman for my grandmother, Inez Parker Layrisson. And that's where I get my name, Parker, because she and her sister Myra Parker Vaughn, were the Parker sisters. They were both widowed at young ages. And, widows by, let's say, 40-ish, and they lived to the ripe old age of 85-ish and 105-ish, and not only never remarried, but never dated again. But that forced them into their own small business of sorts. So I'm sure they went through a lot of the obstacles that you two face in starting a business as I have. But it just tickles my heart to think if there had been something like that for them. These two little old ladies, they spent most of their lives as widows. Some people are widows for 60 years, like my Aunt Myra. So thank you for doing that. That is a tremendous little idea. We've got a link here in the comments to the show, as you can see also here. But check it out. The funeral home Facebook page has all these events and information. It's a treasure trove of info for this and other things. If you want to learn about services, keep up with obits and whatnot, I would highly recommend following it.
Yeah.
Martha, Brandon, the two of you, as I said at the outset, one of my favorite couples, a couple we should all look up to and aspire, but also a couple that's kind of fun to see around the ballpark and drink a lemonade with or whatever. So thank you for your time. I know you're busy. You have a big, wonderful family, and I'm sure they miss you. So I'll let you get back to them now. But on behalf of our viewers and listeners, I want to say thank you. And to our viewers and listeners, thank you for sticking with us to the end. We'll be back here next week. Y'all take care.
Thanks for having us.